This is a fictional romantic story, created for entertainment purposes only. The wedding march was playing. 200 guests were seated. I was 3 steps from the altar when the doors exploded open, and a voice I knew better than my own heartbeat shattered everything. "Stop this wedding." And the man I was about to marry went pale as death itself. "We're working toward 10,000 subscribers on this channel, and every single one of you matters. If this story speaks to you, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where in the world you're listening from." I read every single one. Now let me tell you how I went from walking down an aisle toward the wrong man to being claimed by the most dangerous one in the city. 6 months ago, I thought I had it figured out. I was Victoria Chen, senior financial analyst at Hartley and Associates, engaged to Preston Whitmore III, the firm's golden boy, the man everyone said I was lucky to have. His family owned half the commercial real estate in the financial district. His smile was in charity galas. His future was so bright it was blinding. And I was so busy being grateful that I didn't notice I was disappearing. The first time he grabbed my wrist hard enough to leave marks, he apologized for an hour. The second time, he explained that I'd embarrassed him at the company dinner by laughing too loudly at another man's joke. The third time, he didn't bother explaining at all. I learned to wear long sleeves. I learned to smile through the ache in my ribs. I learned that when you're marrying into a family that funds the building your HR department works in, complaints have a way of vanishing. But this story doesn't start with Preston. It starts with the man who watched me from across boardrooms for 3 months before I ever knew his name. The quarterly review meeting was supposed to be routine. 15 executives around a mahogany table, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, my presentation on financial projections queued up on the screen. I'd been working 18-hour days to prepare, partly because the numbers were complex, partly because staying at the office meant staying away from Preston. I hadn't eaten in 2 days. The bruise on my hip from where I'd fallen against the doorframe made it agony to sit. And the corset under my dress, the one Preston insisted I wear to look appropriate, was crushing my already cracked rib. But I smiled. I always smiled. "As you can see from the third quarter projections," I began, clicking to the next slide. That's when I noticed him. End of the table. A man who hadn't been at any previous meeting. Massive frame that made the executive chair look undersized. Dark suit that cost more than my monthly salary. Jaw sharp enough to cut glass, shadowed with stubble. Tattoos creeping above his collar, disappearing into darkness. And eyes, God, those eyes, black as midnight, fixed on me with an intensity that made my prepared speech falter. He wasn't looking at my presentation. He was looking at me. "Ms. Chen," the CFO's voice cut through. "The projections." "Yes, sorry," I clicked forward. "The revenue increase of 12% assumes." The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the table, willing my vision to steady. The corset was too tight. I hadn't eaten. The ribs screamed with every breath. Black spots danced at the edges of my sight, and I thought, don't let them see. Don't show weakness. "Ms. Chen." "I'm fine," I managed. "Really, if you'll direct your attention to." The floor rushed up to meet me. But I never hit it. Massive hands caught me before I crumbled, one arm hooking behind my knees, the other supporting my back, and suddenly I was lifted against a chest that felt like a wall of warm marble. "Meeting's over." His voice was a low rumble that vibrated through me. "Everyone out, now." "Mr. Morty, she just needs some water, we can." I said out. I'd never heard a room empty so fast. I came back to consciousness in fragments. The smell first, expensive cologne, something dark and masculine underneath, like smoke and sandalwood. Then warmth, radiating from the body still holding me. Then his voice, low and controlled, speaking to someone I couldn't see. "Get Dr. Benedetti, tell him it's urgent." A pause. "I don't care if he's in surgery, now." I tried to move, and pain lanced through my side so sharply I gasped. "Don't," his arms tightened. "Stay still." My eyes fluttered open. I was in an office I didn't recognize, all dark leather and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. And I was in his lap, cradled against his chest like something breakable, something precious. The meeting, I managed. My presentation. Is the last thing you should be worried about right now. His dark eyes searched my face. When did you last eat? I couldn't remember. Tuesday, maybe. What day was it? He read the answer in my silence. Something flickered across his features, there and gone. What's your name? I asked, because somehow I still didn't know, and it seemed important, urgent, that I know who was holding me like I mattered. Luca Morty. The name hit me like ice water. Morty, even in my fog, I knew that name. Everyone in this city knew that name. The family that controlled the ports, the construction unions, the shadows behind half the legitimate businesses in the financial district. I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt safe. The corset, I whispered. I can't breathe. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. You're wearing a corset to a business meeting. It wasn't a question. It was an inventory of evidence. Preston says I need to look. Preston, the name dripped from his lips like poison. Your fiancé. I nodded weakly and regretted it instantly as the room spun. He's the one who picks your clothes. Still not a question. His voice had gone quiet in a way that felt more threatening than shouting. What else does he pick for you, Victoria? He knew my name. He'd been watching. I should have found that concerning. I didn't. I'm fine, I said automatically. Really? You keep saying that. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone, impossibly gentle for hands that size. But your body is telling me a different story. Before I could protest, he shifted me in his arms and reached for my waist. Professional, clinical, his fingers found the tiny hooks at my back and released them one by one. The corset loosened, and I gasped as my lungs finally expanded fully. The breath I took was the first real one I'd had in months. And then his hand stilled. I watched his expression change, watched the concern harden into something cold and lethal as his fingers found the edge of the bruise that wrapped around my ribs. Purple and green, mottled like a storm system, visible now that my shirt had shifted. Victoria, his voice was terrifyingly calm. Who did this to you? I fell. Don't. The word was quiet, absolute. Don't lie to me, not ever. Who did this? I should have protected Preston. That's what I'd been trained to do for 18 months. Protect the narrative. Protect the family name. Protect the future I was supposed to be grateful for. But something about Luca Morty's arms around me, his heartbeat steady against my palm, his eyes promising violence to whoever had hurt me, broke something open. Preston, I heard myself say. My fiancé, he has a temper. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. Then Luca lifted his phone, one-handed, without loosening his grip on me. His eyes never left mine as he spoke. Dante, Preston Whitmore, I want to know where he is right now. I want to know where he sleeps, where he works, and where he thinks he can hide. A pause. No, alive, but barely. You don't have to, I started. You're going to tell me everything. He ended the call. How long, how many times, what the system did when you asked for help. I reported it to HR once, I whispered. 5 months ago. The Whitmore family donates to the company's charitable foundation. My complaint was lost. Lost. She said there was no record of it, that I must have imagined submitting it. The words were spilling now, poison I'd been holding too long. Preston's uncle is on the board. His cousin runs legal. When I threatened to go to the police, Preston told me no one would believe me, that his family would bury me, that I had no proof. You have proof. His jaw was granite. You're covered in it. A knock at the door. Luca didn't release me as he called, enter. An older man with a medical bag stepped in, took one look at me in Luca's arms, and asked no questions at all. Dr. Benedetti, Luca said. Examine her. Ribs at minimum. I want to know exactly what was done to her. I should go to a hospital, I tried. No hospitals. The words were final. Too many questions, too many people who could be bought. Dr. Benedetti approached with kind eyes and careful hands. I watched Luca's face as the examination proceeded, as each bruise was catalogued, as the doctor confirmed what we already knew: 2 cracked ribs, extensive contusions, evidence of repeated trauma over months. With each revelation, Luca's expression grew more terrifying. "Will she be all right?" His voice was controlled, too controlled. "With rest and proper care, yes. But she shouldn't be alone, and she absolutely cannot return to wherever this has been happening." "She won't be." Luca's arms tightened around me. "She's under my protection now. Whatever she needs, she gets." I should have protested. I should have insisted on handling this myself, on going home, on not owing anything to a man whose last name made prosecutors nervous. Instead, I let myself sink against his chest. "I'm going to take you somewhere safe," he said quietly, just for me. "My penthouse. You'll have your own room, your own space. No one will touch you unless you want them to." "Why?" The question escaped before I could stop it. "You don't know me." Something shifted in his dark eyes, something that looked almost like vulnerability. "I've been watching you since the day you started at Hartley," he said. 3 months. Every meeting you attended, I found a reason to be there. Every presentation you gave, I watched you command rooms full of men twice your age. You're brilliant, Victoria, and brave. And you've been hiding pain behind that perfect smile while everyone around you was too blind to see it." He brushed hair from my face. His touch was impossibly gentle. "I saw it. I saw you. And I've spent 3 months trying to find a legitimate reason to talk to you that wasn't. I think about you constantly, and it's becoming a problem." I should have been alarmed. 3 months of watching. 3 months of silent attention from a man who could make problems disappear permanently. Instead, warmth bloomed in my chest for the first time in longer than I could remember. "And now," I whispered. "Now I have a reason." His thumb traced my cheekbone. "Now I get to keep you safe, and God help anyone who tries to take you from me." He carried me to his car himself, not because I asked, not because I couldn't walk, because he simply didn't set me down. The penthouse was everything I should have expected. Dark leather furniture, exposed brick walls, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city like a kingdom, marble countertops in a kitchen bigger than my apartment, and a bedroom he led me to that was all crisp white sheets and heavy curtains and the kind of silence that money buys. "Rest," he said, lowering me onto the bed. "Dr. Benedetti left medication for the pain. I'll have food brought up." "You don't have to." "Victoria." He crouched beside the bed, bringing his face level with mine. "For the first time in what I'm guessing is a very long time, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to smile. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to be strong. You just have to heal." My eyes burned. I hadn't cried in months. Preston called crying manipulation. "I'll be in the next room if you need anything." He stood. "Sleep." He was at the door when I spoke. "Luca." He turned. "Thank you." Something softened in those dark eyes. "I've got you, Bella. That's not going to change." I woke at 3:17 a.m. to unfamiliar darkness. For a moment, panic seized my chest. Wrong ceiling, wrong sheets, wrong everything. Then memory rushed back, the meeting, the fall, his arms, and I exhaled slowly. The penthouse was quiet. City lights glowed through the curtains, and something smelled like coffee. I shouldn't have gotten up. Dr. Benedetti had been clear about rest. But something pulled me toward the door, down the hallway, toward the low light emanating from the kitchen. He was standing at the counter, back to me, phone pressed to his ear. He'd changed from the suit into gray sweatpants that hung low on his hips and a black t-shirt that stretched across shoulders that seemed even broader in casual clothes. His knuckles were split and bleeding. "It's done." His voice was quiet. "He won't be a problem anymore." I must have made a sound because he turned. Something flickered across his face, concern, then calculation, then a careful blankness as he ended the call. "You should be sleeping." "Your hands." I stepped closer. "You're bleeding." He glanced down like he'd forgotten. "It's nothing." "That's not nothing." I crossed to him before I could think better of it, took his hand in mine, examined the torn skin. Did you? He's alive. The words were flat. He'll stay alive, but he understands now that touching you has consequences. I should have been horrified. A man had been beaten because of me. Violence had been committed in my name. Instead, looking at his damaged knuckles, I felt something I hadn't felt in 18 months. Protected. Let me clean these, I said. Victoria. Let me. He studied me for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. I found supplies under the bathroom sink. First aid kit, antiseptic, bandages. He sat on the leather sofa and let me take his massive hand in my lap, let me dab at the wounds with cotton soaked in hydrogen peroxide. You didn't have to do that, I said quietly. Hunt him down. Yes, his voice was certain. I did. Why? His free hand came up, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. The gesture was so tender it made my throat tight. Because no one touches what's mine. I'm not. You are, he said it simply, like stating a fact of nature. You have been since the moment you walked into your first board meeting and argued with the CEO about his outdated investment strategy while everyone else just nodded along. You just didn't know it yet. I should have bristled at being claimed. Should have reminded him that I was engaged, that I belonged to myself, that I wasn't a possession to be fought over. But the truth was, Preston had been possessing me for 18 months, and it had felt like a cage. This felt like coming home. I finished bandaging his hands, set down the supplies, looked up to find his eyes already on me. Victoria, his voice was rough. I need you to know that I'm going to kiss you right now, and if you don't want that, you need to tell me to stop. My heart slammed against my ribs. And if I don't tell you to stop? Then God help us both. He cupped my face in his bandaged hands. Tell me to stop. I should have. I was engaged. I was injured. I was vulnerable and scared and in no position to be making decisions about men. Don't stop. His mouth found mine. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was consuming, devouring, like he'd been starving for me as long as I'd been starving for oxygen. His hands slid into my hair, angling my head where he wanted it. His tongue swept against mine, and I tasted whiskey and coffee and something dark and addictive that was just him. I melted into it, into him. Let myself be kissed like I mattered, like I was wanted, like I was worth burning down worlds for. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. When I have you, he said, voice rough as gravel, I want you healed and whole. I want you sure. I want you in my bed because there's nowhere else you want to be, not because you're scared and hurting and grateful. I'm not. You are, he pressed his forehead to mine. And that's okay. You're allowed to be all those things, but I'm not going to take advantage of them. When we do this, and we will do this, it's going to be because you want me, not because you need to be rescued. What if I want both? I whispered. Rescuing and you. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. Then you're going to have to be patient, because I've waited 3 months. I can wait a little longer. He kissed me once more, softly this time almost chaste. Go back to bed, Bella. I'll be here in the morning. 3 weeks passed. In that time, I moved out of the apartment I'd shared with Preston, escorted by men whose names I never learned, but whose presence made movers work remarkably quickly. The engagement was ended via a lawyer Luca provided. The ring returned, the Whitmore family's threats neutralized by forces I didn't ask about. I learned later that Preston had resigned from Hartley and Associates and relocated to a satellite office in Montana. I learned even later that the relocation hadn't been voluntary, and that his new position came with a very clear understanding. If he ever returned to the city, if he ever tried to contact me, if he so much as thought about me too loudly, there would be consequences. I should have felt guilty about that. I didn't. Luca gave me a new position, executive liaison to his legitimate holdings, which included real estate, construction, and import businesses. My own office, adjacent to his. A salary that made my previous one look like pocket change. and the unspoken understanding that everyone in the organization knew exactly whose protection I was under. For 3 weeks, we circled each other. He would appear in my office doorway with coffee made exactly how I liked it. Black, 1 sugar, splash of oat milk. I would find excuses to bring documents to his office, lingering longer than necessary. Our fingers would brush when he handed me files. His hand would find the small of my back when we walked to meetings together. His eyes would meet mine across crowded rooms, and something hot would unfurl in my stomach. 3 weeks of tension, 3 weeks of restraint, 3 weeks of healing. And then my follow-up with Dr. Benedetti. "Ribs are healing well," he said, packing up his bag. "Normal activities can resume, all normal activities." The look he gave me suggested he knew exactly which activities I was asking about. That night, I found myself in Luca's office doorway. He was at his desk, sleeves rolled to his elbows, tattoos on full display, signing documents with a fountain pen that probably cost more than a car. The city glowed behind him through floor-to-ceiling windows. "Victoria," he didn't look up, "is there something you need?" "You know what I need." His pen stilled. Slowly, he raised his eyes. I was wearing a dress I'd bought that afternoon. Black, simple, nothing underneath. His jaw tightened. "My patience is gone," I said, "and I'm healed, and I'm sure. And there's nowhere else I want to be except in your bed or on your desk. I'm not particular." For a long moment, he didn't move. Then he set down the pen, rose from his chair, crossed to me with the controlled grace of a predator who'd finally decided to pounce. "Say it again." His voice was barely above a whisper. "I want you. Again. I'm yours." Something broke in him. I watched it happen. Watched the careful control shatter as he lifted me like I weighed nothing, set me on the edge of his desk, stepped between my thighs. "You don't get to take it back," he said, hands sliding up my thighs, pushing the dress higher. "Once you're mine, I don't share, ever." "I know. I'll want you constantly. I'll be possessive. I'll need to know where you are, who you're with, that you're safe." "I know. I'll love you so goddamn hard it will terrify us both." I wrapped my arms around his neck. "I'm counting on it." His mouth crashed into mine. What followed was nothing like the careful restraint of our first kiss. This was claiming, consuming. His hands were everywhere, pushing fabric aside, mapping territory he'd been denying himself for weeks. My fingers found the buttons of his shirt, tore them open, found the heated skin beneath. He lifted me again, turned, lowered me onto the leather sofa against the wall, covered my body with his. "Tell me you want this," he breathed against my throat. "I want this. Tell me you're mine." "I'm already yours," I arched into him. "I've been yours since you caught me." The sound he made was barely human. And then there were no more words. After we lay tangled together on the sofa, my head on his chest, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on my back. The city sparkled through the windows. His heartbeat was steady under my ear. "I'm falling in love with you," he said quietly. "Maybe I already have. Maybe I've been in love with you since the day you called the CEO's investment strategy, charmingly naive, in front of the entire board." I laughed softly. "You heard that?" "I heard everything, saw everything. I've spent 3 months watching you be the most brilliant woman in every room while hiding pain that should have broken you." His arms tightened. "You made me want things I have no business wanting, Victoria. A future, a partner, someone to come home to." I lifted my head, met his dark eyes. "I love you," I said. "I knew it when you caught me, when you didn't let me fall, when you looked at me like I was worth saving." "You're worth everything." He cupped my face. "Move in with me, officially, not as someone I'm protecting, as mine, as my partner, as the woman I want to wake up next to every morning." I thought I already was. "You've been in the guest room." His thumb stroked my cheek. "I want you in my bed, permanently. I want your clothes in my closet and your coffee mug next to mine and your voice as the first thing I hear every day." What if we drive each other crazy? Then we drive each other crazy together. He kissed me softly. Stay with me, Bella. Let me spend the rest of my life proving that falling was the best thing that ever happened to us. I was crying again, but these weren't the tears I'd learned to hide. These were the tears of someone finally letting themselves be held. Yes, I whispered. Yes. We watched the sunrise from his balcony. I was wrapped in his shirt and nothing else. He stood behind me, arms around my waist, chin resting on top of my head. The city stretched below us, golden and glittering, and I thought about how different everything looked from up here. 3 months ago, I was invisible, disappearing under the weight of a man who claimed to love me while leaving bruises as evidence of his lie. Now I was standing on top of the world, held by a man whose hands could kill, but touched me like I was sacred. I walked into that meeting bruised and alone, I said quietly. I fell, and in falling, I found everything I never knew I needed. His arms tightened. And I'll catch you every time. That's not a promise. That's just physics. You fall, I catch, always. I turned in his arms, looked up at the man who'd seen me when everyone else looked away. What happens now? Now, he kissed my forehead. Now we build a life. Now you run my legitimate operations because you're twice as smart as anyone else I could hire. Now we have dinner together every night and fight about whose turn it is to choose the movie and fall asleep tangled up in each other. That sounds dangerously normal for a mafia boss. You make me want normal things. He smiled, and it transformed his face from dangerous to devastating. You make me want everything. I reached up, traced the line of his jaw, felt the stubble beneath my fingertips. Then let's have everything. That was 6 months ago. 6 months of waking up in his arms. 6 months of running an empire together by day and coming home to each other every night. 6 months of learning that protection doesn't have to mean possession, that strength can coexist with gentleness, that falling can be the beginning instead of the end. Preston's wedding invitation arrived last month. He's marrying someone from his family's social circle. A woman who will learn the same lessons I did, or maybe she won't. Maybe she'll be strong enough to leave before the bruises start. I sent the invitation through a shredder and didn't think about it again. Because here's what I know now. Some falls break you, some falls save you. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, massive hands catch you before you hit the ground and a voice like smoke and velvet says, "I've got you," and means it forever. So now I have to ask you a few things. Do you think Luca went too far with Preston? He was beaten. He was exiled. His career was destroyed. Some people would say that's excessive. Some people would say it wasn't enough. What do you think? When Luca said I was his, some people might call that controlling. To me, it felt like finally being valued, like finally being worth protecting. Is there a difference between possessive love and toxic control? Where's that line for you? He admitted he'd been watching me for months before we ever spoke. Romantic or concerning? Because I'll be honest, when he told me, I didn't feel stalked. I felt seen. Is that wrong? Would you have let yourself fall for someone that dangerous? Knowing what he is, what he's capable of, would you have walked away? Could you have? Have you ever had someone catch you when you were falling, literally or figuratively? I want to hear about it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me where in the world you're listening from. Share your own stories of unexpected rescues, of falling for people you shouldn't, of finding safety in the strangest places. If this story spoke to you, hit that subscribe button. We're working toward 10,000 subscribers, and every single one of you helps make that happen. Like, comment, share with someone who needs to hear that they deserve to be caught. More stories are coming, darker ones, sweeter ones, all of them about finding love in unexpected places with men who shouldn't be tender but are. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Until next time, Bella.